I thought I was alone in the room. The door was locked, the lights were off, and yet when I opened my eyes at 3:17 a.m., she was there, sitting on the floor, in complete silence, smiling at me. No one was supposed to be home. My name is Trevor, and what happened that night changed my life forever. This is the most disturbing story I've ever lived through, and it still haunts me to this day. It all started when I moved into that house on Maple Street. It was a Victorian house from 1920, with 3 floors and a basement that the previous owner had converted into an office. The price was suspiciously low for the size and location, but I was desperate to get out of the cramped apartment where I was living. The real estate agent Jennifer Wells seemed nervous during the visit. She avoided eye contact and spoke too quickly. "It's a beautiful house," and she kept saying, "very quiet." When I asked about the previous residents, she just mumbled something about moving to another state and quickly changed the subject. The first week was normal. I worked as a freelance graphic designer, so I spent most of my time at home. During the day, everything seemed perfect. But at night, things started getting strange. Narrator. They were small things at first. Footsteps upstairs when I was in the kitchen. Doors that I was sure I had closed would appear open. Once I found all the second-floor windows open in the morning, even though I was certain I had closed them the night before. It was on the 10th night that I saw her for the first time. I was working late in my office when I heard a sound coming from the living room, like someone was dragging something heavy across the floor. I left the office and looked into the living room. At first, I didn't see anything, but then, in the darkest corner of the room, a silhouette was moving. It was a woman, wearing what appeared to be a long white dress. She was facing away from me, completely motionless. I blinked once and she was gone. I turned on all the lights and searched the entire house. Nothing. All doors and windows were locked. I convinced myself that it had been my imagination working overtime from stress, but curiosity consumed me. I started researching the history of the house. What I discovered sent chills down my spine. The house had belonged to a family called the Thorntons. William Thornton, his wife Victoria, and their 8-year-old daughter Emma. In 1987, Victoria Thornton had disappeared, simply vanished one night without leaving a trace. William claimed that she had left the house around 3 a.m. and never returned. But there was something strange about the reports. Neighbors reported seeing lights on in the house every night for months after the disappearance. Lights that moved from room to room, as if someone was still there. After that first sighting, she began appearing more frequently, always at night, always in silence, and always smiling. She would appear in different places, sometimes in the kitchen, standing next to the refrigerator, other times on the stairs, looking down. But most disturbing was when she appeared in my bedroom, always sitting on the floor, always with that smile that froze my blood. I started documenting everything, times, locations, duration. I discovered a pattern. She always appeared at 3:17 a.m., exactly 3:17 a.m., like clockwork. After 2 weeks of appearances, I decided to confront her. I bought a night vision camera and installed it in my bedroom. If she was real, I would prove it. If it was a hallucination, the video would show only an empty room. That night, I forced myself to stay awake until 3:17. I kept watching the camera, waiting, and then she appeared. Not gradually, like a shadow forming. She was simply there, as if she had always been there. This time I spoke. "Who are you? What do you want?" She slowly turned her head in my direction. Her eyes weren't human. They were completely black, like empty holes, but the smile remained. The next day, I decided to explore the basement more thoroughly. There was an area that seemed to have been walled up later. The paint was newer, and the bricks didn't match perfectly with the rest of the wall. Using a hammer, I started breaking down the wall. Behind it, I found a small room, and on the floor, clothes. Women's clothes from the 80s, and a diary. The diary belonged to Victoria Thornton. The last entries spoke of a presence in the house and how she felt constantly watched. The final entry, dated March 15, 1987, read, "She wants me to stay. She wants me to be like her. I can't resist much longer. I went back to the old newspapers and discovered more details about Victoria's disappearance. There were inconsistencies in William's story. He claimed she had left the house, but no neighbor saw her leave. All her clothes were still in the closet. Her purse was at home. And then I found something that shocked me. A photo of Victoria Thornton in the newspaper. She was identical to the woman I had been seeing. The same face, the same smile. She hadn't disappeared. She had died in that house and never left. After the discovery, the appearances intensified. Victoria no longer appeared only at 3:17. She was always there. I would wake up and she would be at the foot of the bed. I'd enter the kitchen and she would be sitting at the table. I'd take a shower and see her silhouette through the curtain. She began interacting with the environment. Objects would move when she was present. Lights would flicker. The temperature would plummet. Once I woke up to find "Stay" written on the bathroom mirror, apparently made with steam from the shower. Iowa. Tried telling friends and family, but no one believed me. They thought I was stressed, that I needed psychological help. My best friend Connor came to visit me once. Connor stayed only one night. He left the next morning, pale and shaken. "There's something wrong with your house, Trevor," he said. I felt like I was being watched all night, and I heard laughter. He never came back. Victoria began to communicate with me, not with words, but in other ways. She would point to the basement, to the small room where I found her clothes. Sometimes she would extend her hand, as if she wanted me to follow her. I resisted, but she was persistent. Her smile never disappeared, but her eyes seemed to plead, as if she was suffering, as if she wanted company in her eternal torment. I decided to move. It didn't matter how much money I would lose on the house. It didn't matter where I would go. I had to get out of there. I started packing my things during the day when Victoria rarely appeared. But she knew. I could feel her presence watching me. Objects began moving on their own. Boxes I had sealed would appear open. Clothes I had packed would return to the closets. On my last night in the house, she appeared differently. More solid. More real. She was sitting on the floor of my room at 3:17, but this time when I spoke to her, she answered, "Victoria, don't go. Please. I'm so lonely." Her voice was like wind through dry leaves, cold and distant, but desperately human. I felt a strange compassion for her, a woman trapped between worlds, condemned to wander that house eternally. But then she stood up, and for a moment I could see through her. It wasn't just Victoria who was trapped there. There were other silhouettes, other forms, dozens of them, all smiling, all watching me. I understood then that the house wasn't haunted by just Victoria. She was a collector of souls. Every person who had lived there and had disappeared was trapped in that house, and they all wanted company. Victoria extended her hand once more. "Stay with us," she whispered. "You'll never feel alone again." For a moment, I almost gave in. The loneliness I felt was overwhelming. But then I ran. I left the house that dawn and never returned. I left everything behind. Furniture, clothes, equipment. Nothing was worth more than my soul. But Victoria didn't forget me. Sometimes, when I'm alone at night, I see her in the corner of my eye, always smiling, always waiting. She reminds me that there's a place for me in that house, a place where I would never feel alone again. The house is still there, on Maple Street. It's still for sale. The price remains low, suspiciously low. And sometimes at night the lights turn on by themselves, moving from room to room, as if someone is still there. If you ever find yourself looking for a house on Maple Street and the price seems too good to be true, remember my story. Remember Victoria. And remember that some smiles hide the greatest horrors. Victoria. Come home, Trevor, we're waiting. This was my story. And now it's yours too. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And tell me in the comments, would you have the courage to spend one night in that house? Or would you like me run away? Until the next story, if there will be a next one.